I woke up from surgery expecting to see my husband holding my hand. Instead, my phone lit up with a notification regarding a baby registry. The mother listed was my sister, the woman currently recovering with my kidney inside her body. The father was my husband. I did not cry. I stared at the screen and wondered exactly how many papers I had signed while high on anesthesia. My name is Lila Hartley. At 34 years old, I made my living predicting outcomes. As a senior strategist for the Stonehaven Strategy Group here in Columbus, Ohio, I lived my life by a very specific code. If you cannot measure it, you cannot manage it. I liked spreadsheets. I liked clear deliverables. I liked knowing exactly where the exit signs were in every room I entered. My life was a grid of calculated risks and quarterly projections, and I took pride in my ability to keep the ledgers balanced. Then there was my husband, Grant Caldwell. Grant was the variable I never bothered to audit because the returns always looked so high. He was the kind of man who knew exactly how to charm a waiter and how to listen to my father's repetitive stories without checking his watch. He played the role of the supportive partner with the precision of a seasoned actor. "You're so lucky, Lila," my mother would whisper to me at Thanksgiving, clutching her wine glass. He's just perfect for you. He softens your edges." And then there was Serena, my older sister, the professional patient. Serena had chronic kidney failure, a diagnosis that had become her entire personality. She was fragile, ethereal, and perpetually the center of our family's solar system. I was the sturdy one, the one who could handle things, the one who did not need extra love because I was efficient enough to manufacture my own. When Serena's numbers crashed, the conversation at the dinner table shifted instantly. My parents did not ask me if I was willing to donate. They simply looked at me as if I were a biological savings account that had finally matured. "You're the match, Lila," my mother said, her voice trembling as she set down the medical report. "Family is family. You have two, and she has none that work. It's the only way." I expected Grant to be the voice of reason. I expected him to ask about the recovery time or the risks to my career. Instead, he became the campaign manager for my kidney. He drove me to the compatibility tests. He sat in the waiting room with a magazine, looking concerned and noble for anyone walking by. "Think about the future," Grant told me one night, rubbing my shoulders while I stared at my laptop. Think about the bond you two will share after this. It's beautiful, Lila. You're doing the right thing." When the match was confirmed, Serena wept. She gripped my hands with fingers that felt cold and bony. "I will owe you my entire life," she sobbed, looking deep into my eyes with a strange intensity, and I will pay you back in ways you can't imagine. At the time, I thought it was gratitude. I did not realize it was a statement of intent. There was only one crack in the facade, one tiny data point I chose to ignore because it did not fit the trend line. 3 days before the surgery, I walked into the kitchen to get water. Grant was standing by the counter, holding a phone. It was not his phone. It was Serena's case, the one with the glittery back. He was listening intently, his eyes narrowed. When he saw me, he did not jump. He just tapped the screen to end the call and set it down. He looked at me with a strange expression. It was the look of a man who had just placed a massive bet and knew the dealer was about to bust. "Just checking her battery," he said smoothly. She worries about missing calls from the doctor." The morning of the admission, I was groggy from the anxiety medication they had given me. A nurse brought in a clipboard thick with forms, liability waivers, insurance coordination, power of attorney for medical decisions during incapacitation. Grant stood over my shoulder, pointing to the lines. "Just standard procedure." "Honey," he murmured, handing me the pen. "Sign here and here. I'll handle the rest. You just rest." I signed my name over and over again. I signed away my rights. I signed away my body. I thought I was saving a human life. I did not check Grant's shared calendar until much later. If I had checked it then, I would have seen that the entire week of my recovery was blocked out. It did not say hospital visit or wife's surgery. It was just a solid block of gray color code that meant private. The surgeon called the procedure a textbook success. To him, I was likely just a series of anatomical layers that had been neatly separated and stitched back together. But as the anesthesia began to wear off, my body felt less like a textbook and more like a ruined building. The pain was not a dull ache. It was a sharp, screaming presence that lived just below my rib cage. Every breath required a conscious negotiation with my own muscles, and the mere act of expanding my lungs felt like I was tearing myself apart all over again. I lay in the recovery room, staring at the sterile white ceiling tiles, counting the little dots to keep from passing out again. Grant was there when the doctors were doing their rounds. He stood by the head of the bed, holding a plastic cup of ice chips with the devotion of a saint. He nodded solemnly as the surgeon explained the importance of my incision care. "We'll take good care of her," Grant said, his voice dropping to that reassuring baritone he used on high-net-worth clients. She won't lift a finger." But the moment the white coats left the room and the heavy door clicked shut, the performance ended. Grant set the ice chips down on the tray table with a little too much force. He checked his phone, his thumb scrolling rapidly. "I have to take this," he muttered, not looking at me. "Work crisis." You're good here." "Right. You're just sleeping anyway." He was gone before I could ask for water. The room was suddenly very quiet, save for the rhythmic beeping of the monitor that tracked a heart I felt was breaking in slow motion. I fumbled for my phone. The screen was a harsh glare in the dim room. I opened social media, looking for a distraction from the throbbing in my side. The first thing on my feed was a story from Serena. It had been posted 3 hours ago. The photo showed a darkened hospital room, very similar to mine, but with a silhouette of a man sitting in the visitor's chair. He was facing away from the camera, looking out the window. The caption was overlaid in elegant cursive script. "The best man in the world stayed by my side all night. I don't deserve this love." I squinted. The slope of the shoulders looked familiar. The haircut was precise. It looked like Grant. But Grant had told me he went home to feed the dog. Later, a nurse I did not recognize came in to check my vitals. She seemed frazzled. She checked my wristband and then glanced at the chart. "Your husband left," she asked, adjusting the blood pressure cuff. "Or was it your sister's guardian? I get confused." He was buzzing around the nurse's station, asking about her charts. I tried to clear the fog from my head. Guardian. He is her brother-in-law. The nurse paused. She looked at me, then down at the floor, realizing she had stepped into something sticky. "Oh, right. Sorry. I must have misread the handover." She finished her work in silence and left quickly. My parents visited in the evening. They smelled like cafeteria coffee and antiseptic. They had come straight from Serena's room, and their faces were glowing with a relief that did not extend to me. "She looks wonderful." "Lila," my mother said, clasping her hands together. "She's sitting up. She's smiling. It's a miracle. She is so strong." I shifted my weight, and a bolt of fire shot through my side. I let out a sharp hiss of air. My father frowned, looking over the top of his glasses. "Lila, keep it down. Don't make a scene. The doctor said you're fine. Serena is the one with the compromised immune system. She's being so brave about it all. I just gave her an organ." "Dad," I whispered, my throat dry. "And we are proud," he said, waving his hand dismissively. "But don't ruin the moment with negativity." The next morning, I was told to walk. I dragged my IV pole down the corridor, my hospital gown fluttering around my legs. I stopped outside Serena's room. The door was open. Inside, on the bedside table, was a massive vase of deep red roses. The scent drifted out into the hallway. thick and cloying. I felt my sinuses instantly tighten. I am allergic to red roses. Grant knew this. Serena knew this. She usually claimed she forgot, or that she just liked them because they looked rich. Seeing them there felt like a deliberate territorial marker. I made it back to my bed, exhausted. I grabbed my phone to check my bank balance, needing to see if the pharmacy charge for my painkillers had gone through. I pulled up our joint account. There was the charge for the pharmacy. There was a charge for the hospital parking garage. And then there was something else. A pending transaction from the day before titled Vitality Medical Services. It was a deposit for $2,500. I stared at the number. That was not a copay. That was a down payment. I was drifting in and out of a nap when I felt a presence. I opened my eyes to see Serena. She had wheeled herself into my room. She looked healthy. Her skin had color. She looked at me with a small, secretive smile. "You sleep so much," she whispered, leaning in close. "Go ahead. Sleep. I'll handle the rest." It chilled me more than the air conditioning. I closed my eyes, feigning sleep until she left. When I opened them again, my phone buzzed. It was a sync notification. My email app had refreshed. Because our family shared a cloud plan, sometimes calendar invites crossed over if the privacy settings were not toggled correctly. A new email sat at the top of the list. Appointment confirmation, Serena Hartley. Location, Columbus Center for Obstetrics and Gynecology. Notes, first trimester prenatal screen. I stopped breathing. The pain in my incision vanished, replaced by a cold, hard knot of realization. I was discharged on a Tuesday afternoon. The house was quiet, filled with that stagnant, dusty air that accumulates when a home has been empty for a week. I moved slowly to the couch, clutching a pillow against my incision site. My phone, which I had left charging on the coffee table, buzzed with a notification. It was not a work email or a bill. It was an alert from an old family shopping account we had all used years ago for Christmas lists. Baby registry created Serena Hartley. I frowned. My fingers hovered over the screen. I assumed it was a mistake, perhaps a wish list for a friend she was hosting a shower for. I tapped the link. The page loaded, bright with pastel yellows and soft greens. The due date was listed for 7 months from now, and right at the top, under the welcome message, was a note, "Dad loves you already. We can't wait to meet you." I felt the blood drain from my face, leaving me cold despite the heavy throw blanket. I scrolled down. The profile picture was not a stock photo. It was a sonogram image, the black and white blur of a developing fetus. In the corner of the frame, a man's hand was resting possessively on the edge of the printout. I zoomed in. On the ring finger was a thick platinum band with a distinct, diagonal scratch across the brushed metal. I knew that scratch. Grant had made it 3 years ago on a metal railing during a wine tasting trip in Napa. He had refused to get it polished because he said it gave the ring character. Now, that character was claiming paternity of my sister's child. The front door unlocked. Grant walked in, looking disheveled. He tossed his keys into the bowl. "I am dead on my feet," he groaned, rubbing his face. "Running between here and the hospital, checking on you, checking on her. It's a lot. Lila, I'm exhausted." He leaned down to kiss my forehead. As he got close, the smell hit me. It was not the sterile scent of the hospital, nor was it the stale air of a car. It was midnight orchid. It was a heavy floral perfume that cost $300 a bottle. It was Serena's scent. I did not scream. I did not shove the phone in his face. In my line of work, you do not present your findings until the data set is complete. I locked my phone and placed it face down. I smiled, a tight, thin expression that barely reached my eyes. "You should shower," I said evenly. "You smell like the hospital." He nodded, grateful for the out, and went upstairs. I opened my laptop and created a new folder. I took screenshots of the registry. I took screenshots of the date it was created. I zoomed in on the ring and saved a high-resolution crop. My phone buzzed again. A text from Serena. Don't panic. I stared at the words. Before I could even process what she meant, the message vanished. This message was deleted. 10 seconds later, my mother called. Lila. Her voice was high, pitched with a frantic sort of cheerfulness. Listen, honey, Serena has news. It's a miracle, really, given her condition. But listen to me, Con. Don't be shocked. The family needs peace right now. We almost lost her to the kidney failure, so we have to celebrate life. You understand, don't you? What are you saying? Mom, I asked. My voice flat. She's pregnant. Lila. Isn't it wonderful? I hung up. Grant came back downstairs, fresh from the shower, wearing sweatpants. He saw my face. He did not look guilty. He looked annoyed, as if I were a project that had gone over budget. I assume your mom called, he said, walking over to the fridge to get a water. Look, Lila, I know it's weird, but you are recovering. Do not start drama right now. The doctor said stress is dangerous for your healing. We can talk about the logistics later. Right now, just be happy for her. Happy. I repeated. Yes. Happy, he said firmly. I waited until he fell asleep on the couch. Then, I pulled my hospital discharge papers out of my bag. I needed to see exactly what I had agreed to. I flipped through the stack until I found the authorization for release of information form. It allowed my medical records to be shared with a designated proxy. At the bottom of the page was my signature. It spelled my name. It had the loops of my L and the cross of my T. But the pressure was wrong. The ink was too heavy at the start of the letters. I looked at the date next to it. That signature was dated at 4 a.m. on the day of my surgery, 2 hours before I had even arrived at the hospital. I ran my thumb over the ink. It was not my hand that had held the pen. Someone had practiced being me, and they had gotten very good at it. I sat at my kitchen island with a cup of black coffee and opened my laptop. I did not open a digital diary to pour out my feelings. I opened a blank project folder. I named it Hartley Timeline. In my line of work, we call this a forensic audit. If you want to find the truth, you do not listen to what people say. You follow the money, and you follow the time. I logged into our joint credit card portal. Grant had always handled the monthly reconciliations, claiming it was one less thing for me to worry about. Now, I downloaded the raw data for the last 4 months. I filtered the transactions by category medical and uncategorized. The spreadsheet populated instantly. I scanned the rows. There were the expected charges for my pre-op labs, but interspersed between them were outliers. A charge for hormone panel A on a Tuesday in August. A charge for ultrasound services 3 weeks later. A recurring payment labeled fertility consult. I looked at the dates. August 12th, September 4th, October 1st. I cross-referenced these dates with my personal calendar. August 12th was the day Grant had started a massive argument about me working too late, accusing me of neglecting our marriage. I had spent the evening apologizing, too drained to look at our bank alerts. September 4th was the day he claimed he had a flat tire and came home 3 hours late. He had not been angry. He had been busy. I picked up my phone and called the credit card concierge service. I need the specific merchant details for a transaction on October 1st, I said, my voice steady. The descriptor is vague. I need the location. 1 moment. Ma'am, the operator said. That charge is from the Dublin Fertility Center in Dublin, Ohio. Thank you. I hung up and opened Grant's Google Calendar. We had synced our schedules years ago for what he called marital transparency. I toggled back to October 1st. His calendar showed a block labeled Client Strategy Lunch. The time matched the clinic's operating hours perfectly. I went to his email next. I had his password because he had asked me to check a flight confirmation for his mother 2 years ago and never changed it. I typed order confirmation into the search bar. I scrolled past the Amazon orders for books and tech gadgets until I found one archived email that had been marked as read but never deleted. It was an invoice for prenatal vitamins. Not just a bottle, but a 6-month supply. The shipping address was not our house. It was Serena's apartment number. I needed to see her. I packed a bag of unused gauze and medical tape from the hospital props for my performance and drove to Serena's apartment. I had a key for emergencies. I knocked once and let myself in. "Serena," I called out. "I brought you some extra supplies. Grant said you were running low." She was on the sofa, wrapped in a cashmere blanket. She looked up, startled. "Lila, you." "You shouldn't be driving," she stammered, pulling the blanket tighter. "You're still healing. I'm fine," I said, walking into the living room. The apartment was messy, which was unlike her. On the coffee table, buried under a stack of fashion magazines, was a glossy brochure. The corner was sticking out. I could read the bold font, "How to Tell Your Family." "You're expecting a guide for high-risk mothers." I sat down on the arm of the chair opposite her. Serena smiled nervously. She reached for her water glass, and as her sleeve slid up, I saw it. On the inside of her elbow, there was a faint, greenish-yellow bruise. It was small and precise. I knew the bruising patterns of dialysis and kidney blood draws. They were usually on the forearm or the fistula site. This bruise was higher. It was exactly where they draw blood for beta-HCG monitoring during IVF cycles. "You look tired." I observed. "It's the anti-rejection meds," she said quickly, covering her arm. "They make me so dizzy. I feel so weak." "Lila, of course," I said. I stood up to leave, my eyes scanning the room one last time. On the dining table, there was a pile of mail. On top of the stack sat a thick envelope with a logo I recognized. It was a brand that sold organic supplements. The document wasn't fully inserted into the envelope. I walked over, pretending to admire a vase of flowers. I glanced down. It was a sponsorship agreement. The title of the campaign was printed in cheerful orange letters, "The Kidney Angel Journey, a story of family love and sacrifice." I looked at the signature line at the bottom of the visible page. It was not Serena's signature. It was Grant's. He was listed as the talent manager. I felt a cold clarity wash over me. I was not just a donor. I was not just a wife. I was the pilot episode for their reality show. I arrived at my parents' house on a Sunday afternoon. I walked slowly, each step sending a dull throb through the healing incision in my flank. But I kept my spine straight. I did not treat this as a family gathering. I treated it as a hostile board meeting where I was the majority shareholder they were trying to oust. We sat in the living room. My mother fluttered around with coasters, too nervous to sit. Serena sat next to Grant on the love seat, her hand resting protectively over her stomach. "We didn't plan this," Serena started, her voice trembling just enough to be convincing. It was a moment of weakness. "We were both so terrified about your surgery, and we found comfort in each other. It was a mistake, but now, it's a miracle." My father nodded solemnly. "Life finds a way. Lila, a child is a blessing, no matter how it arrives." I looked at them. I looked at the way Grant's arm was draped around the sofa behind Serena. "You slept with my husband while I was being prepped to give you an organ," I stated. It was not a question. My mother flinched. "Lila, please. You have already done such a noble thing. You gave her a kidney. Now we are asking you to be the bigger person. Family is family. You donated your kidney. So please, donate your forgiveness." Grant spoke up then, his voice low and practiced. He looked at my parents, not me. "Lila has always been cold," he said, shaking his head as if he were the one in pain. "She's married to her job." "She never wanted children. She made that clear." I felt lonely. Serena understood that need for connection. "Lila is great at spreadsheets, but she doesn't understand people. It was a script. He was rewriting our history to justify his future." I waited for him to finish. I did not defend my character. I did not cry. I simply pulled a folded piece of paper from my purse and placed it on the coffee table. "Who signed the medical proxy for me?" I asked. The silence that followed was absolute. It sucked the oxygen right out of the room. Grant stopped rubbing Serena's back. My father stopped cleaning his glasses. "I know I didn't sign it," I continued, my voice level. "And I know the timestamp on the digital signature is from 4 in the morning, when I was sedated. So, I will ask one more time. Who committed forgery to gain control over my medical records?" Serena let out a sharp sob. She clutched her stomach. I can't handle this stress right now. "The baby needs peace. You're hurting the baby." "Lila." My mother rushed to her side. "That's enough." "Lila." "Look what you're doing to her." I stood up and walked out. I had my answer. The war moved from the living room to my office the very next day. At 9 in the morning, 2 of my junior analysts came to my desk, looking uncomfortable. One of them handed me a printed email. This was sent to the general HR inbox and CC'd to the partners. She whispered. It was an anonymous letter. It detailed my recent psychological instability following major surgery. It claimed I was exhibiting paranoia and aggression and suggested that Stonehaven Strategy Group should monitor the risk of keeping me on high-stakes accounts. 2 hours later, Grant walked into the lobby of Stonehaven. He was carrying a massive bouquet of lilies. He was not there to apologize. He was there to perform. He spoke loudly to the receptionist, making sure everyone in the waiting area could hear. "I just want to see my wife," he said, his voice thick with concern. "She's having such a hard time adjusting. I just want her to know we support her." He was baiting me. He wanted me to come out and scream at him. He wanted me to prove the anonymous letter right. If I made a scene, I was the unstable ex-wife. If I stayed hidden, I was the cold, distant woman he described. I sent security down to escort him out quietly. I did not go down. That evening, I did a deep dive into Grant's professional profile. I knew he was looking to leave his current firm, but I had not paid attention to where he was applying until now. I accessed the internal job posting board that our industry shared. Grant had submitted an application for an internal transfer within his company. He was not moving to sales or strategy. He had applied for a senior role in the Benefits and Compliance division. It was a step down in pay, which made no sense for a man obsessed with status. Then I realized what that department controlled. The Benefits division had administrative access to the health insurance data of all employees and their spouses. If he got that job, he could bury the paper trail of the fraudulent signature and the fertility treatments billed to our joint insurance. He wasn't looking for a job. He was looking for a shredder. I did not hire a therapist to help me process my grief. I hired Marisol Crane to help me process a lawsuit. Marisol was a civil litigation shark who specialized in image rights, medical privacy violations, and high-stakes harassment. She did not offer me tea or sympathy. She offered me a strategy. "We are not going to sue him for breaking your heart," Marisol told me, tapping a pen against her glass desk. "That is not actionable. We are going to sue him for theft. Theft of your identity, theft of your medical privacy, and theft of your professional reputation." She outlined a 3-pronged attack. First, the forgery of the medical proxy. Second, the commercial unauthorized use of my likeness for the sponsorship deal. Third, the workplace harassment aimed at destabilizing my career. By noon on Wednesday, we had sent formal preservation of evidence letters to Grant, Serena, the organic supplement company, and the fertility clinic in Dublin. These were not polite requests. They were legal grenades warning them that deleting a single email or shredding a single receipt would result in criminal sanctions for spoliation of evidence. My company, Stonehaven, reacted with the cold efficiency I had always admired. I showed HR the anonymous letter and the security footage of Grant's theatrical lobby performance. They did not see a concerned husband. They saw a liability. "We are flagging this as a hostile act," the HR director told me. "Grant Caldwell is persona non grata. If he sets foot on the property, we will call the police." I went home and systematically dismantled the life we had built. I called a locksmith to change the deadbolts. I enabled two-factor authentication on every single digital account I owned. I opened a new bank account at a different institution and routed my paycheck there. I removed Grant from my emergency contacts. I treated the separation not as a breakup, but as the liquidation of a failed subsidiary. Grant realized he was losing control, so he shifted tactics. He stopped the aggression and pivoted to what I called toxic kindness. He began emailing our mutual friends, college roommates, and even my cousins. I received a screenshot from my college best friend. It was an email from Grant with the subject line, "Worried about Lila. I'm reaching out because I'm terrified for her." He wrote, "The surgery took a toll on her mental state. She's paranoid. She thinks everyone is against her. If she pushes you away, please just keep checking on her. She needs us." I did not call him to scream. I did not post a defense on Facebook. I printed the email, scanned it, stamped it with the date and time, and added it to the Hartley timeline folder under the subfolder Defamation. He is trying to build a narrative of incompetence. Marisol explained when I forwarded her the file. He wants to make sure that if you speak out, people will think it is just the medication talking. We need a temporary restraining order. Now. We filed for the order, requesting no contact, including third-party contact. I wanted a legal wall between me and his manipulation. But then, the first countermove hit us. Marisol called me late on Friday, her voice tight. "We got a response from the legal team at the fertility clinic," she said. "They are refusing to admit negligence regarding the consent forms." "That is impossible," I said, gripping the phone. I never walked into that clinic. I never signed a consent for Serena to use my genetic history or my insurance. "They claim they have a signed consent form on file," Marisol said. "And they say the signature is a perfect match to your driver's license and your passport. They validated it against the system." I felt the room spin. How it was submitted digitally. Marisol continued. "It was a high-resolution scan sent from an email address authorized on the account. Grant's email. He didn't just forge your signature. Lila." He lifted it from another document and pasted it on. The first crack in their fortress did not come from a subpoena. It came from a conscience. On Tuesday morning, Marisol called me with a tone I had never heard her use before. It was excitement. "We have a whistleblower." "Lila," she said. "A billing specialist at the Dublin fertility clinic named Callie Mercer just contacted my encrypted line. She saw the digital trail of the consent forms. She says the metadata is all wrong. Callie Mercer did not just give us technical data. She gave us the scene." She told Marisol that whenever Grant and Serena came in for appointments, Grant did the talking. It was creepy. Callie had told Marisol during their call. He answered for her. He would say things like, "Serena feels fine today," or, "We are ready for the next cycle." It was like he was a director and she was just an actor hitting her marks. The floodgates opened. Once the armor cracked, the rats started fleeing the ship. Later that afternoon, I received a text from Jade, a woman who had been Serena's best friend since college. Jade and I had never been close, but she sent me a screenshot of a text conversation she had with Serena 2 weeks before my surgery. "Serena, it's all timing. I just need her to be down for a few weeks so everything can settle." Jade added a message underneath. "I thought she meant she needed you to recover so you could help her. Now I think she meant she needed you unconscious so she could take over." I went back to the Hartley timeline. I looked at the date of that text. It was the same day Serena had rented a storage unit on the outskirts of town. I drove there. My name was still on the authorized access list because I had helped her move a sofa 3 years ago. I punched in the code and rolled up the metal door. It was not full of old furniture. It was full of boxes marked nursery. I opened one. It was filled with onesies, crib sheets, and bottles. I checked the receipts taped to the boxes. These items were purchased 4 months ago. This was not an accidental pregnancy born from a moment of shared grief. This was a procurement strategy. But the document Marisol sent me an hour later turned my blood to ice. "You need to sit down," Marisol said. We subpoenaed the donor rejection logs from the transplant network. What do you mean rejection logs? I asked. Serena didn't just wait for you. Lila, Marisol said, her voice dropping. She was matched with a cadaver kidney 6 months ago. It was a perfect match. The doctors cleared it. She never told me that. I whispered. She declined it, Marisol said. She signed a waiver stating she preferred a living donor for better long-term outcomes. But that's not the whole story. Look at the sponsorship contract again. I pulled up the PDF of the Kidney Angel campaign. I read Clause 4, Section B, Family Unity Bonus. If the donor and the recipient's primary support partner spouse appear together in promotional materials, the base compensation shall increase by 100%. The math was sickeningly simple. A kidney from a stranger was worth $0 in marketing revenue. A kidney from a sister, followed by a miraculous pregnancy with the sister's husband, was a 6-figure narrative. I was not a savior. I was a prop in a reality show they were writing in real time. Serena must have realized the walls were closing in. Her phone number popped up on my screen. Lila, please. She sobbed into the voicemail she left. Don't drag me into court. He made me do it. He said it was the only way to secure our future. I'm scared. Lila. I did not respond. 5 minutes later, my phone alerted me to a new post on Grant's social media. It was a black screen with white text. My wife is threatening the mother of my unborn child. I am terrified for my family's safety. Please respect our privacy while we deal with this harassment. He was trying to get ahead of the story. He wanted to paint me as the villain before I could show the world the receipts. I opened the cloud account one last time. I went into the drafts folder of the video editing software we used to share. There was a new project file created 3 days ago. I opened the script. The title was typed in bold. Capital letters, she gave her kidney, then tried to take my baby. Below, it was a storyboard. Scene 1. Grant looking sad in a hospital hallway. Scene 2. Serena holding a pregnancy test, looking fearful. Scene 3. A blurred photo of me looking angry. Grant was not just cheating on me. He was producing a tragedy, and he intended to sell tickets to my destruction. The invitation arrived at the Stonehaven offices on heavy cream-colored cardstock. It was for the Riverlight Benefit Ball, a local gala that was the highlight of the Columbus social calendar. My executive assistant placed it on my desk with a hesitant look. I flipped it over. Listed under the Stories of Hope segment were the names Grant Caldwell and Serena Hartley. They were billed as a testament to family sacrifice. Grant was not just planning to attend. He was planning a live performance. Later that afternoon, a Google alert pinged my phone. Grant had given a quote to a local lifestyle blog. Lila will be there, he had told the reporter. We are working through the emotional fallout of the surgery together. She is coming to support her sister and our growing family. It is going to be a night of healing. He was boxing me in. If I did not show up, I looked bitter and unstable. If I did show up, I validated his narrative and helped him trigger the bonus clause in the sponsorship contract. I did not go to the dress shop. I went to my laptop. I drafted a formal letter to the Riverlight Board of Directors. I attached a certified copy of the temporary restraining order I had obtained against Grant. I also attached a notice regarding the unauthorized use of my likeness for commercial gain. I am not asking you to cancel the event. I wrote, I am informing you that featuring a narrative currently under active litigation for fraud and identity theft poses a significant reputational risk to your foundation. To ensure they understood I was not attacking the charity itself, I logged into their donation portal. I made a contribution of $5,000 in the dedication line, where people usually wrote in memory of Grandma. I typed in honor of patient privacy and donor consent. Marisol took it a step further. She sent a subpoena to the gala organizers for all communications they had had with Grant regarding the sponsorship money. We are not just ruining his party. Marisol told me over the phone. We are turning the ballroom into a crime scene. Every dollar he tries to collect there becomes evidence of fraud. Then, the final piece of leverage fell into place. Callie Mercer, The billing specialist from the fertility clinic called Marisol to confirm she would testify. "I can't sleep," Callie said, her voice shaking through the speakerphone in Marisol's office. I checked the IP logs again. The consent forms were uploaded from a device named Grant's MacBook Pro. He didn't even try to hide it. I'm ready to talk. That evening, my phone rang. It was Serena. I almost sent it to voicemail, but something about the persistence of the ringing made me answer. Lila. She sounded like she was hyperventilating. He knows. He knows you sent the letter to the board. He is tearing the apartment apart. That sounds like his problem. I said calmly. No, you don't understand. Serena cried. He says if I don't fix this, if I don't get you to come to the gala, he will release everything. He says he will tell everyone I seduced him. He says he will destroy me. He is gaslighting you. Serena, I said, he is losing control, so he is trying to terrify you into compliance. But the baby, she sobbed. We need the money from the sponsor. He said it's for the baby. The money is for him. I replied. He is using your body and my kidney to build a bank account. Serena, listen to me. You are pregnant. You need the truth more than a script. I hung up. I did not offer to save her. She had to choose to save herself. The next morning, 24 hours before the gala, an email went out to the guest list. It was a revised program from the Riverlight Board. Due to unforeseen legal circumstances, the Stories of Hope presentation featuring the Caldwell-Hartley family has been removed from the evening's itinerary. We apologize for the change. Grant had bought a tuxedo. He had practiced his speech. He had likely already spent the advance money, and now he had no stage. The silence from his end was not peaceful. It was the heavy, pressurized silence of a bomb counting down. Grant decided that if he could not control the narrative, he would burn the theater down. On Monday morning, 3 of my most significant clients at Stonehaven forwarded me emails they had received from an anonymous Proton Mail account. The subject lines were variations of concerns regarding strategy leadership. The text inside was vicious. It claimed I was suffering from severe post-operative psychosis, that I was making erratic financial decisions, and that my judgment was compromised by trauma-induced paranoia. My managing partner, David, called me into his office. He did not ask me to clear out my desk. He handed me a report from our internal security team. We traced the routing, David said calmly. It's a cheap VPN service, but the syntax matches the threatening letters we already logged. We are treating this as third-party harassment. We are not just defending you, Lila. We are defending the firm's assets. You are the asset. I went straight to Marisol's office. Her conference table was covered in stacks of paper. It looked like a battle map. We had the timeline of the fertility clinic visits. We had the draft of the video script titled She Gave Her Kidney. We had the sponsorship contract with the clause about the family unity bonus. And now, we had the anonymous emails. He is flailing, Marisol said, placing the emails into a binder labeled Exhibit D. He is trying to discredit you so that when we release the truth, people will think it is just the ramblings of a sick woman. Then Serena reached out. She did not call me. She called Marisol. She agreed to meet us at the law firm, on neutral ground. When she walked in, she looked smaller than I remembered. She was not wearing her usual designer heels. She was wearing sneakers. I will tell the truth, Serena said, her voice barely a whisper. I will testify that he planned the timeline. I will testify that he coached me on what to say to the sponsors. But I have a condition. Name it, I said. You have to promise not to turn me into the villain in the press, she said, wringing her hands. I can't. I can't handle the internet coming for me. Lila, I'm pregnant. If you agree to focus the lawsuit on him and leave me out of the public blast zone, I'll give you everything. Agreed, I said without hesitation. I did not need to destroy Serena. She was already destroying herself. I wanted the architect. Marisol slid a document across the table toward me. Her face was grim. You need to see this, Marisol said. We pulled Grant's financial discovery this morning. 2 weeks before your surgery, he took out a term life insurance policy on you. The payout is $2 million. I stared at the paper. And, Marisol continued, pointing to a date, he filed a request to increase the benefit for accidental death the day after the transplant was deemed a success. He bet on your complications, Lila. The room felt very cold. I realized then that I had stopped being a wife to Grant Caldwell a long time ago. I was not even a partner. I was a high-risk asset he was hedging against. Serena saw my face and started crying. He told me it was just financial planning, she sobbed. He said we needed to be secure, and he told me the baby had to have the Caldwell name. He said Hartley was too soft. He said Caldwell was a brand. He wanted to franchise the baby, I said, feeling a wave of nausea. Marisol's paralegal knocked on the glass door and entered, looking pale. She handed Marisol a tablet. Marisol read the notification, and her jaw tightened. Grant's legal team just filed a motion to dismiss the privacy claim, Marisol said, looking up at me. They submitted a new piece of evidence. They claim they have a digital release form for the use of your name and image in the documentary project. I never signed that, I said. They have a time-stamped signature, Marisol said, turning the screen to face me. It is dated October 14th at 3 in the afternoon. I looked at the date. October 14th at 3 in the afternoon. I was in the recovery room, drifting in and out of consciousness on a morphine drip, unable to lift my head, let alone sign a legal contract. Grant had not just forged my signature, he had preyed on me while I was incapacitated. The hearing at the Franklin County Courthouse did not look like a movie scene. There were no dramatic gallery gasps or banging gavels. The room was small, lit by humming fluorescent lights, and smelled of floor wax and stale anxiety. It was a sterile environment, which was perfect because I was there to excise a tumor, not to argue about feelings. Grant's lawyer stood up first. He was a man who clearly charged by the syllable. He painted a picture of a tragic, misunderstood husband trying to hold a family together while his wife spiraled into post-operative jealousy. Your Honor, he said, gesturing vaguely toward me, this is a domestic dispute fueled by hormonal imbalances and the emotional strain of a major surgery. Ms. Hartley is lashing out because her sister is carrying the child she refused to have. I sat with my hands folded on the table. I did not flinch. I let him finish his performance. Then Marisol stood up. She did not use adjectives. She used data. She placed a stack of binders on the judge's bench. We are not here to discuss feelings, Marisol said, her voice cutting through the room like a scalpel. We are here to discuss the digital footprint of a calculated fraud. She walked the court through the timeline. She projected the metadata of the signature on the screen. She showed the IP address of the computer used to sign the consent forms Grant's personal laptop logged at a time when hospital records showed I was unconscious in the recovery room. Then, she displayed the draft of the video script found in the cloud, titled in bold letters, "She gave her kidney," then tried to take my baby. The judge frowned, leaning forward to look at the screen. Callie Mercer took the stand next. She looked nervous, but her voice was steady. She testified that Grant had been the one to answer every question during the fertility consults. She confirmed that the electronic consent forms appeared in the system only hours after my surgery ended, uploaded remotely. Then came Serena. She walked to the stand wearing a loose dress, avoiding Grant's gaze. She looked at her hands. Ms. Hartley, Marisol asked, did you plan this pregnancy? It wasn't an accident, Serena whispered, her voice shaking. Grant said we needed a story. He said a baby would make us a brand. He told me to wait until Lila was recovering so she wouldn't notice the appointments. Grant's lawyer tried to object, but Marisol dropped the final hammer. She introduced the sponsorship contract from the organic supplement company. She highlighted the clause regarding the family unity bonus. Mr. Caldwell received a $10,000 deposit the day after the baby registry went live. Marisol stated, he was not building a family. He was fulfilling a contractual obligation for a marketing campaign. The room went dead silent. The judge looked at Grant. Grant looked at the table. The narrative of the loving, misunderstood husband evaporated under the heat of the bank statements. The ruling was swift and devastating. The judge granted a permanent restraining order. He ordered the immediate removal of all digital content referencing me, my medical history, or my likeness. He ordered Grant to pay for my legal fees and punitive damages for the unauthorized commercial use of my image. Furthermore, the judge said, looking over his glasses at Grant, I am forwarding the evidence regarding the forged medical proxy and identity theft to the district attorney's office for criminal review. Grant stood up, his face red. He looked at me, desperation cracking his polished veneer. Lila, you can't do this, he said, his voice straining. You have to. You have to think about us. I did this for us. Mr. Caldwell, sit down. The judge barked. Grant ignored him. He took a step toward me. Please. You can't leave. You have to marshal, the judge shouted. Grant froze as the bailiff stepped forward. I looked at him one last time. I felt nothing. No anger. No love. Just the satisfaction of a project completed on time and under budget. I met him in the hallway 10 minutes later, surrounded by his legal team. I had the divorce papers in my hand. Marisol had prepared them that morning. I placed them on the bench next to him. I am not taking the house. I said, I am taking my life back. You're making a mistake. Grant spat out, venom finally replacing the charm. I made a mistake 4 years ago. I replied, looking him dead in the eye. Today, I am correcting it. I don't want my husband back. I am taking back my name, and the right to live without anyone using my body as content. I turned and walked out of the courthouse. The air outside was cold and smelled of rain, but to me, it smelled like freedom. Thank you so much for listening to my story. I would love to know where you are tuning in from, so please drop a comment below and let's share our thoughts. If you enjoyed this story, please make sure to subscribe to the Mia Revenge Stories channel, like this video, and hit the hype button so this story can reach even more people.